This is your disclaimer. This book was fantastic and I actually do think that you should read it. So if you think there's ever a chance that you will read this book, don't watch this video. But if you've already read it, or don't think you'll ever read this, then watch, because this is such an insane ride. I don't think I've ever felt more left out that I haven't read a book sooner than I'm feeling right now. I'm starting my first VC Andrews book, and after doing a bit of research and a deep dive into Andrews herself, I did learn that she only published 7 books before she passed away. I couldn't even tell you how many books are published under this woman's name right now. I think she has over 40 out. She has a ghostwriter who has been using her notes, completing series for her, and even writing complete series based off of her ideas. But from what I've read, people don't think they hit the same. Now, unfortunately, all 3 VC Andrews books that I have picked up are books that she did not physically write herself. But that doesn't mean we're not going to read them. However, it only felt right and true to start with Flowers in the Attic. That's the only book that I'd ever really heard of hers before, and I've heard so many controversial different things. And the amount of people saying, 1, how young they were when they first read this book, 2, how often they still think about this book, and 3, that maybe they should reread it right now after seeing me talk about it. I'm like, damn, what did this book do to y'all? Should I have also read this at a way too young age and devoured this in middle school to be left traumatized and physically attached to this series? Like, I feel like I have missed out on such a pertinent part of the experience of reading Flowers in the Attic. But we can't go back in time, so here I am at 28, about to read this book for the first time. Now, this video will be full of spoilers. We're going to dive into everything, every single inner thought that I have about reading this book will be discussed. So there's only 3 reasons you should keep watching this video. 1, you've read this before, but it was a long time ago, and so maybe it's gonna feel like rediscovering the book. 2, you know for a fact that you will never pick up this book, but you still want to partake in what this book is about and get to know the story. Or 3, maybe you're just sick and twisted and you want to hear all the spoilers of a book before you actually read it. So even though this is, I'm reading Flowers in the Attic so you don't have to, I'm actually really enjoying the book so far. Let me just tell you in general what the book is about. Honestly, up until this point, I had a misconstrued perception of what this book exactly was about. Like, it's just a little detail. It's not a major change. But this is a gothic novel about 4 siblings who are forced to live in the attic of their grandparents' house. These grandparents they've never met, they've never heard much detail about, but after their father passes, their mother, who has never had a job before, in her mind has no other option but to turn to her parents, the children's grandparents. But she's fallen out of grace with them. She has been disowned, she has been removed from the inheritance, from the will. However, her father is dying, so she thinks, okay, I need to secure my spot back with my dad. That way he will leave me some money and I can support my children from here on out. She's like, he's gonna pass away soon, okay? So what's she do? She forces her children to live in an attic where their grandfather will never find out about them before passing. Here's the thing. They are basically, in current day, they would probably be billionaires. Like, they have multiple wings of their house. They are not only secluded to one wing of the house, they are secluded to a room in one wing of this house that the grandfather never goes in, the servants never come and clean. The grandmother is just so hateful and spiteful, as well as the grandfather, but she thinks that if the servants get any opportunity to get a leg up on her, they will take that moment up. So she believes if the servants even get a whiff that some children are living here, they will immediately go and rat out the children to the grandfather. So the grandmother, I wouldn't describe her as having a soft spot for her daughter, but she is aware of the children. She brings them 3 meals a day. She drops it off in the morning at the butt crack of dawn before any of the servants are even up. And she has this list of 20 very strict rules. We'll get into the rules in a bit. She's very strict, she's abusive, she is manipulative, she is hateful. But the children's mother, Corinne, believes that this is her only option, so she agrees to it. Meanwhile, she is living in the rest of this grand house. She is, in fact, still being like physically and mentally abused by her parents, but she's also, you know, allowed to go outside. She's allowed to sit and dine with the family. She's back wearing expensive jewelry. Meanwhile, all 4 of her kids are locked in a room, unbeknownst to anyone in the house but her and her grandmother. No one even knows she has children. The 4 siblings we have are Kathy, who is 12, and she is the narrator of this story, so everything's from her perspective. Her older brother, Chris, who is 14, and then they have twin siblings who are 5, Carrie and Corey, all C names. Initially, I thought it was only the 2 teens who were going to be stuck in this attic. For some reason, I kept thinking, oh, how do the twins make it out of here? Because I don't think I'm able to say this on camera, but there's a lot of close familial connections relations in this series. So that's kind of the gist of the book. 4 children locked in an attic, wealthy family, wealthy grandfather passing soon, hopefully, and they're locked in there until he passes away because their mother is afraid to tell him that she has kids because she thinks he'll never put her in his will. We'll get into the details soon. First though, I've got to make a coffee and then we'll get through what I have read so far. I'm about 25% of the way through, but then we'll continue reading. You'll get my live thoughts, my live analyses. All I have to say though, I have not been bored at a single point while reading this. I've been in a massive reading slump. I am turning this page. I mean, it's on my Kobo, so I'm doing that. But there's something addictive in the writing. Like, I wouldn't describe it as overly flourished. There's no real special prose. Like, it's just kind of there. But the way this story is being told is just paced, I think, so perfectly that you're just like, what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? What happens next? I need to know. Let's go make a coffee real quick. I know I'm getting old because sitting on the ground for that 15 minutes right there to film the intro, my leg was asleep for a solid 5 minutes. Okay. This has been my go-to lately. I have some homemade vanilla bean syrup. It's so, so good. I had a little too much to fit in the jar, so I've just been scooping it out of a mug. But for today, we're gonna take the first scoop out of the jar and just a little bit of caramel in my espresso. Like, genuinely, just the smallest. Little drizzle. And then all of my drinks I make are 16 ounces. So I do 2 shots of espresso, about a cup of milk, 3 tablespoons of syrup, not including that caramel, and a lot of ice. Okay, that was 3. But like, seriously, look at this. So yummy. Last time I made vanilla bean syrup, I did all white sugar for it. This time I did 75% white sugar, 25% brown sugar. Honestly, I don't notice a major difference. Perfect. Barista lovers, oat milk. I kind of start with a cup and then add the espresso. And since it's gonna melt the ice a bit, I just kind of look at the color and decide if I need more ice or more milk. Okay. This is how it's looking. After it mixes, the color is going to be good, so I'm just going to add a couple more ice cubes. Got it. Please stay. Please stay. I stuck this in the freezer while I ate a quick lunch. You've got to be joking. No. No. Please. Please. I stuck this in the freezer while I ate a bit of lunch though. I just love an ice cold coffee. You couldn't tell by how much ice I put in this. Oh my god, that's so good. So here's basically what you have missed so far. So the book opens up before the twins are born, and we're getting to know the relationship dynamics of this family. Chris is a mama's boy. Kathy is a daddy's girl, for sure. They're very spoiled. They're not like exorbitantly wealthy, but they definitely have a lot of money. They're also called the dolls because of how beautiful they are. They're all perfectly, you know, porcelain skin, blonde hair, blue eyes in this neighborhood. Every single one of them, both parents included. The dad travels for work, so he's gone Monday through Friday, but he's home on the weekends. He's always bringing the children gifts when he comes home. He always has a little something for them. And the mother and father are very much in love. Like, they have a pretty healthy relationship. Kathy and Chris, I feel like, are just as most siblings are. They kind of get at each other a little bit, but they also do rely on each other. We then find out that their mother is pregnant, and Kathy is very worried because she feels like she's the replaceable one of the two siblings already. And when she finds out they're twins, she's like, please let them be boys. Please let them be boys. Plot twist, it's one boy and one girl. She was like, wow, I'm gonna be trapped in this like middle child syndrome, which as the youngest, I can't relate. Christopher wants to be a doctor and he just thinks his mother is the most beautiful, perfect woman in the whole world. And Kathy just thinks she's gonna be left behind and forgotten. Jumps forward a few years, the twins are 4, and their family dynamic still seems to be standing strong. Healthy relationships. Kathy is still feeling a bit left out. Chris has stepped even more into like the perfect son mold as the oldest son. He's very intelligent. And again, he just really loves his mother and talks about how much she is just the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. The inciting event that really sets up what this story is going to be happens fairly early on. It's their dad's 36th birthday. The mom is 33, so just a few years age difference. They're having a birthday party for him, so friends are over, but he travels for work. So it's Friday, they're waiting for him to get home. He comes home promptly at 4 p.m. every Friday, bringing gifts, spends the weekends with his kids. He's never late. He's always on time. You know, his children run up to him and grasp him and kiss him. They absolutely adore him. So 4 o'clock comes around. Homie's not there. He is not there. They're getting concerned because it is now 7 o'clock and they still haven't heard anything. One of his friends makes the joke like, oh, I bet he's found some chick on the side. And the wife's just like, why the fuck would you just say that to our friend? Like, clearly she's concerned. And she was rightfully concerned because the car that does pull in is not her husband's car, Chris, which the son is named after, but it is in fact the police. And the way the police describe this car accident that her husband was just in is insane. They're like, ma'am, I regret to inform you there was a car accident. You know, he was able to gain control of the car, but then part of the other vehicle flies out and he's unable to gain control and he flips over 4 times. But it seemed like he was mostly okay after that. But then another vehicle comes and hits him. He spins out of control and then the car sets on fire. The car sets on fire. Like, he really just was like taunting her, like giving hope that like, oh, so he could have survived this. Oh, okay, so he survived, but he's pretty injured. Oh, what is he, in a coma? No, homie, he burned. He burned alive. But they also said it was probably quick. So at least there's that. The only reason the children finally accept that this is the truth and that their father has passed away is when the police officer presents them with his suitcase full of clothes and then the gifts that he brought home for his children that are a bit charred because of the whole, you know, burning thing. So the next series of events happen pretty quickly. This is what shortly follows after their father's passing. Their mother starts panicking, naturally. She has never had to work in her life. Her husband is dead. They didn't have much savings. And we learned that this front that they had put forward of always being very put together, having a beautiful home, nice furniture, was kind of a facade, more or less. You know, they were planning on him having this career and bringing in money for decades still to come. And so with his untimely passing, all of these things that they had put on layaway, even though, you know, they had this $800 couch that they've paid $700 of, they still haven't paid the last $100. So all of their furniture is being taken, you know, they can't afford the mortgage anymore. Basically, they don't even own anything that was theirs at this point. And so the mother starts writing all these letters. Initially, we don't know who she's writing the letters to, but she is just like spending hours writing and writing and writing. And eventually we find out she was writing to her parents because one day she comes up to the children, specifically to the teens, which again, Kathy is 12, Chris is 14. And she's like, I figured something out. My mother has graciously allowed us to move in with her. But she's being like a bit standoffish. She's not giving all these details. Like, they can read, you know, you can read your mother's face and they're reading that. She's not being fully upfront about the circumstances that she is laying out in front of them. She tells the teens to start packing. She, as the mother, gives herself 2 full suitcases, and then she gives 2 suitcases for all 4 children to share. She's like, just pack, you know, a few outfits and maybe 1 or 2 toys that really mean the most to you. Kathy has a really hard time with this because, again, like, her father was her best friend and he brings her a gift every single week. And so she's like, how am I possibly supposed to choose when every single thing that he ever brought me was so sentimental? She has a really hard time with that. And she's like, my Raggedy Ann doll would take up half the suitcase. I can't even bring my Raggedy Ann doll. They hop on a train and things continue to get weirder and our teens are getting more confused. Kathy here's her mother using a different last name. And she's like, why are we not using our last name right now? Dollenganger is the last name. Why are you telling them that that's our last name? Because that's not our last name. So she's very confused. They're on the train on the way to the parents, and she asks the train steward to drop them off like an hour before they even get to the town, like an hour's train right away. And the kids are very confused. It's like 3 a.m, and you know, the steward is like, ma'am, that's not safe. Like, it's you and your 4 children. Like, I can't in my right mind, like, allow you to do this. And so she lies, and she's like, oh, you know, we have someone here to pick us up. Not true. Okay. So they got off the train, 3 a.m. They're walking for hours. And this is when the mother starts to be a little bit more honest about what's going on. You know, initially she was like, oh, you guys are going to have your own bedrooms. You'll have to be quiet, but you know, we'll make things work. Now she's telling them your grandparents are a bit difficult, and your grandfather cannot know about you guys yet. Your grandfather cannot know that I have children, that I'm bringing them with me. I have, you know, fallen out of grace with my family. I have to get back on the right foot. So rather than, you know, each of them getting their own room and just having to be on their best behavior, we learned they're going to be a bit more secluded than that. Their mother left her 2 suitcases on the train to be dropped off at the actual train station. So her plan is to smuggle these children into her parents' house in the middle of the night with the help of her mother, of the grandmother. Then she's walking to the train station, grabbing her 2 suitcases, and is going to be picked up there to build the facade that she, in fact, does not have children. So their grandmother lets them in the middle of the night, and we meet the setting that I believe the children are going to be in for the rest of the book. Again, it's this massive, massive mansion. So they are in this room, and the only reason they have chosen this room specifically is because it's a room that has stairs up to the attic. So the grandmother does not let any of their servants go in there anyway. You know, she couldn't just lock off an entire wing for the children to explore in the same day that their daughter arrives, because then people would be suspicious. That room specifically stays locked already. So the children have to stay in this room. The grandmother brings them food, and the mother has to just pretend that she does not have any kids. So she's talked about how her father, you know, he's so wealthy and he's a very active member of church. And with Christianity, you tithe 10% of your income. So he gives so much money to that church. So the town kind of just like turns the other cheek when they see some of his behavior, because everyone knows how poorly they treat the employees in their home. Both of their sons have passed away, which is why Kathy and Chris's mother thinks this plan could work. My father's dying. I am his only surviving child. He will leave everything to me if I can get back on his good side. She tells her kids they're only going to be locked in that room for a day, a week at most. Then it becomes, oh, well, just a few weeks, maybe a month. And then it becomes, oh, well, I'm going to go to this school in the city so that way I can get a job and be able to support all of us. So now it's just like, okay, well, who knows how long. Thankfully, the room is pretty big though. Like there's, you know, a full table, there's sofas, a huge bathroom, there's 2 queen beds, but the attic is really where it's so massive that standing on one side of it, looking all the way to the other side, it's like blurry, it's so far away. And it's just filled with furniture that could furnish multiple rooms in this mansion. There's a schoolroom up there, but everything's just like dusty and musty. There's 2 pianos also. So they're like, okay, well, let's make the most of it. Let's try to fix up this attic space. So the mother starts bringing them craft supplies when she visits on Sundays, her once a week, like, meal visit that she has with them. It's the grandmother who delivers the food every day. She makes them recite Bible verses, but they like to say verses that are kind of a dig at their grandmother and her wickedness and her evilness, and so she stops asking. Oh my God, I almost forgot to tell you why their mother fell out of grace with her parents. This really sets the tone for the book, and it gives you a hint at the upcoming themes. The reason she has been disowned is because Christopher, her husband, and the father of her children, is her father's little brother. Now, it's a half-brother. It is a half-brother. Why am I like defending this? It's a half-brother, and, you know, their shared parent passed and his other parent passed. So when he was a teenager, he had to come live with his 45-year-old brother, and he's 17, and he lays eyes on his 14-year-old niece, and it was love at first sight, and as soon as she turned 18, they get married. They get married, and that's when she was disowned. I forgot the most important part. That is why she's scared to tell them that she has kids, because they don't want to see the devil's spawn. That's how the children find out. The grandmother keeps referring to them as the devil's spawn. So then the mom's like, I guess I gotta come clean to you guys. Your father is also your great uncle. And even though you're my children, you're also technically my cousins. Anyway, these are the rules that the grandmother has set aside. Rule 1, you are always to be fully dressed. Rule 2, you will never take the Lord's name in vain and will always say grace before each meal. And if I am not in the room to see that you do this, you may be sure that he above will be listening and watching. 3, you are never to open the draperies, not even to peek out. 4, you will never speak to me unless I speak to you first. 5, you will keep this room neat and orderly, always with the beds made. 6, you are never to be idle. You will devote 5 hours each day to studying and use the remainder of your time to develop your abilities in some meaningful way. If you have any skills, abilities, or talents, you will seek to improve upon them. And if you have no abilities or talents or skills, you will read the Bible. And if you cannot read, then you will sit and stare at the Bible and try to absorb through the purity of your thoughts the meaning of the Lord and his ways. Okay, we're off to a really strong start. 7, you will clean your teeth after breakfast each day and before retiring each night. Now we're getting into the I'm holding a grudge because you are incest children, okay? 8, if I ever catch boys and girls using the bathroom at the same time, I will quite relentlessly and without mercy peel the skins from your backs. The last scene that I read, she did in fact whip her daughter. We don't see it, but the mother shows her scars. So, like, keep that in mind. 9, you will, all 4, be modest and discreet at all times, in deportment, in speech, and in thought. 10, you will not handle or play with the private parts of your bodies, nor will you look at them in the mirrors, nor will you think about them, even when you are cleansing those parts of your bodies. 11, you will not allow wicked, sinful, or lusting thoughts to dwell in your minds. You will keep your thoughts clean, pure, and away from wicked subjects that will corrupt you morally. 12, yeah, we're still going, people. You will refrain from looking at members of the opposite sex unless it is absolutely necessary. Like, there's 2 girls and 2 boys in this room. What do you mean you're not even supposed to look at your brother? Okay. 13, those of you who can read, and I hope at least 2 of you can, will each alternately take turns reading aloud from the Bible at least 1 page per day, so the 2 younger children will benefit from the Lord's teachings. 14, you will each bathe daily and clean the ring from the tub and keep the bathroom as spotless as it was when you found it. 15, you will each learn, including the twins, at least 1 quote from the Bible per day, and if I so request, you will repeat to me such quotes as I demand, as I keep track of what passages you have read. 16, you will eat all the food I bring to you and not waste 1 single bit or throw it away or hide it away. It is sinful to waste good food when so many in this world are starving. Okay, grandmother. 17, you will not stride about in the bedroom wearing only your nightclothes, even if you are only going from bed to bath or bath to bed. You will, at all times, wear a robe of some kind over your nightclothes and over your undergarments if at some time you feel the need to suddenly leave the bathroom without fully dressing yourself, so that another child may enter in an emergency. I demand that everyone who lives under this roof be modest and discreet in all things and in all ways. 18, you will stand at attention when I enter your room, with your arms straight down at your sides. You will not clench your hands into fists to show silent defiance, nor will you allow your eyes to meet mine, nor will you seek to show signs of affection toward me, nor hope to gain my friendship, nor my pity, nor my love, nor my compassion. All of that is impossible. Neither your grandfather nor myself can allow ourselves to feel anything for what is not wholesome. For incest babies. 19, when I come into this room to bring you food and milk, you will not look at me or speak to me or think of me with disrespect or of your grandfather with disrespect, for God is above and is able to read your minds. My husband is a very determined man, and seldom has anyone bested him in any way. He has an army of doctors and nurses and technicians to tend to his every need, and machines to function for his organs in case they fail, so don't think something as weakly motivated as his heart can fail a man made of steel. All right. 20, you will not jump, yell, shout, or speak in loud voices so the servants below can hear you, and you will wear sneakers and never hard-soled shoes. 21, you will not waste toilet tissue or the soap, and you'll clean up the mess if you clog up the toilet bowl so it overflows. And if you put it out of order, then it will stay that way until the day you leave, and you will use the chamber pots that you will find in the attic, and your mother can empty them for you. 22, the boys will wash their own clothes in the bathtub, as will the girls. Your mother will take care of the bed linens and the towels you use. The quilted mattress covers will be changed once a week, and if a child soils the covers, then I will order your mother to bring you rubber sheets to use and thrash severely the child who cannot be toilet trained. Conclusion, this is not a do or a don't, just a warning. You may rightly assume that I will add to this list from time to time as I see the need arise, for I am a very observant woman who misses nothing. Do not think you can deceive me, mock me, or play jokes at my expense, for if you do, your punishment will be so severe that your skins and your egos will bear lifetime scars, and your pride will go down in permanent defeat. And let it be known from now on that never in my presence will you mention your father's name, or refer to him in the slightest way, and I myself will refrain from looking at the child who resembles him most, aka Christopher, who is literally named after his father, aka his grandfather's little brother. Yeah, there's some religious psychosis happening in this house. There's a lot happening in this book. We're gonna read a little bit. Next time we do one of these, I'm not gonna start the book without you guys. But I didn't realize this was a thing people did on here, like full spoiler reviews, until I was already 25% into this. And I was like, wait, this would be such a good video to do. It's so gloomy outside though. I think I'm gonna switch into something more comfortable, probably just sweatpants. I'm in jeans right now. It's not the most comfortable to read in. And we're gonna dive into this and I will share my thoughts with you as we go. Their mother has just brought craft supplies up for them. She did also help them like scrub the attic once she learned that, you know, they were probably going to be spending most of their time up there. How kind of her, how generous, her heart so full. And now she's bringing them craft supplies so they can make their own paper garden since they cannot go outside. But at least there's like big windows in the attic. When they're in the bedroom, there's one set of windows and it has to be covered by drapes the whole time because people can actually see into those windows. And if they see movement, suspicious, but no one can see the attic windows. This is how low of an opinion Kathy has of her mother at this point. I mean, for valid reasons. Her mother just bringing her the craft supplies makes her think this. For this did prove she thought of us when she was out in the world. She wasn't just thinking of new clothes for herself and new jewelry and cosmetics. She was trying to make our confined lives as pleasant as possible. Kathy like sees her coming in with like a tan on her skin after she's gone sailing. She's all dressed up, ready to go to the movies. There's guests over at dinner every night. Like, Kathy is not having a good time. Meanwhile, Chris is just like, oh, mother, you look so beautiful after being out in the sun. I'm at the 32% mark, and I keep wondering when the ball's gonna drop. Is that the... I think it's when the shoe... I think it's when the shoe's gonna drop. Just pretend I didn't say that. The children have already been through so much. Like, I mean, they're forced to live in an attic. They don't get to see the sun, really. Go outside, see other people. You know, they've seen scars on their mother's back from being whipped by their grandmother. But I'm like, they're having too much fun. They're having too much fun right now. When does it get bad? Because I feel like something's about to happen. Something's got to happen soon. 34%, we officially got a time frame for exactly how long they've been in here. At one point, Kathy did say, like, the last 7 days how felt like we've lived 4 full years, but they never gave like a definitive timestamp. But we've just been told more than 2 months had passed and still their grandfather lived on. Because remember, that's like the whole goal here is for their grandfather to pass away, so then they don't have to hide away anymore. Also, the grandmother did something kind for the first time in this entire 2 months that they've been there. She never goes up into the attic. She only enters into their room. We just learned that she's claustrophobic because her parents would punish her by locking her in a closet. So it's like, okay, we can see the cycle of abuse happening here. And one day Kathy had to use the bathroom really bad and was running down the stairs to get back to the main room. And her grandmother was in there waiting for her, like kind of trying to eavesdrop what was going on in the attic. She ran straight into her grandmother. And you know, her grandmother's asking all these questions. Are you guys doing anything unholy up there? Anything wicked? Blah, blah, blah. And Kathy's like, I don't even know what wickedness you speak of. You've never even told us what you consider to be wicked. So how are we supposed to know if we're doing that or not? And she's like, well, it looks like you've been doing something bad because you're like shaking. Why are you so nervous? Be honest. And she was like, I'm scared of you. I'm terrified of you, actually. So that was the first time she said that. And then the grandmother brought chrysanthemums for them the next day after hearing they were, you know, trying to make this like paper garden and stuff. So that was the first thing we've seen the grandmother do. That was nice. And also on their mother's most recent visit, Kathy describes their mother as being preoccupied with better things in her mind. So it almost seems like she doesn't even really want to visit her kids anymore. But yeah, 2 full months in there. Insane. I need to put a little music on. It's like too quiet in here. My go-to playlist. I think it is good for genuinely any kind of book as long as it's not like a happy book. I don't read very many happy books. They're so secluded here that they are reminiscing on the times before when they were bored and how they would give anything to be bored doing those things again. Damn. The thing I feared coming has officially arrived. I've just been waiting for this happiness to take a turn. First of all, it's now winter. These kids thought they were going to be in there for a week at most. Initially, they thought one night. It is now the winter. They have no way of providing heat up in that attic. There are old furnaces, but they require gas and wood, and the mother didn't want to bring any supplies to get those started, but she also didn't want to bring an electric furnace because she was afraid it would start a fire, and the extension cords she would have to bring would draw attention. So instead, she brought her kids like long johns, basically, like that head to toe tight underwear pajama thing that you wear like when you go skiing and stuff. And she brought them ski clothes, like the big puffy coats, the extra layered pants, the thick socks, rather than providing, heat for her children in an attic during the winter. So the kids are playing hide and seek, and Corey, one of the twins, he wants to be just like Chris. Carrie wants to be just like Kathy. Those are the only two people they have to look up to. So every time they play hide and seek, Corey hides in the last place that Chris hid in. Chris and Kathy have found Carrie, and they're looking around trying to find Corey, knowing that he would be in the wardrobe, which was where Chris had just hid the round before. So they were, like doing what you do with kids and pretending, oh, I wonder where they are, I wonder where they are. They go to the wardrobe and he's not there, and they're like, oh my God, for the first time. So they look for him and they can't find him. Then they're like, okay, Corey, time for lunch. We're having your favorite peanut butter and grape jelly sandwiches. They hear absolutely nothing. This is when they start to panic because it's so cold up there. They can see their breath. Their hands are numb. They're like, it's been way too long. We have no clue where he is. And they're like, oh my God, what if he went and hid in one of the chests and it locked? It's preventing airflow from getting in. It's freezing cold. He can't breathe. So they start panicking, and he was trapped in one of the chests, passed out. He was blue, wasn't breathing. Chris, thankfully, the child who wants to be a doctor, did CPR on him. They went and ran a warm bath. He's breathing again, okay? This is the moment where everything changed. He starts crying, I want my mother, I want my mother. And Kathy looks at him and says, well, why can't I be your mother? Let me be your mother. And she looks over to Chris, and they both just immediately recognize this change. The danger isn't the spiders or the mice or the dust and the creepy dark corners of this attic. Like, bad things can actually happen, and they have to step up and now be the parents. Corey's out of the bathtub, and Kathy is rocking Corey and Carrie in a rocking chair, and Chris is just sitting on the bed watching, and he kind of gets flushed in the face and looks a little embarrassed, and he's like, can I sit in the rocking chair and you all pile on top of me like our dad? Like their dad used to do with all of them. Kathy reminisces how her dad had such long arms that her mother would sit on her father's lap, and then he would hold all of the children in his arms. And so they kind of recreate that, and she can see their reflection in the mirror. I think this is the beginning of a new era for them. Them realizing they are now the parents. They are truly responsible for these children's lives, for their little siblings' lives, even though they are still kids themselves. Kathy even says in those 10 seconds that they thought Corey wasn't going to make it, she aged 10 years. This is like devastating. I just passed the halfway mark, and we just hit 1 year in the attic. We have some developments, mostly bodily developments. All of the children have had their birthdays. Kathy just had her first period. Chris is growing body hair and is trying to tell Kathy that even her body hair should be embraced as sexy rather than gross. Interesting thing to tell your little sister. And their mother, who at first was visiting once or twice a day, is now coming once a week, if that. There was a close call with her father passing. Unfortunately, he did recover. So the children are thus still trapped in the attic. They're teaching the twins how to write. Imagine being, because they're now 13, 15, and the twins are 6. Imagine being 13 and 15 and like being responsible for these 6-year-olds' educations. Oh my God, insane. On the bright side, for Christmas they did get a TV, so they spent all winter watching television, which like, they're also maybe a male suitor in the mother's life, but we haven't had an update on that since Christmas, and it is August in the book now. They did get to explore, unbeknownst to the grandmother. During the Christmas party, the mother let the older 2 siblings go into this little hiding place so they could watch like this big Christmas ball they were hosting, but they were only supposed to go to this hiding place and then back to the room. Christopher dressed up in like a suit and stuff that was stored in the attic and went and explored a little bit. He did get slapped promptly twice by his mother, but that's how we know there was a suitor, because he overheard and saw a man smooching on her saw her bedroom, and there was something that he didn't reveal about the bedroom to Kathy. I don't know what he saw in there. Very intrigued to see what it's gonna be though. This book's just like devastating. I don't know where we're going at this point. Like a whole year. I'm halfway through the book and we're already a year in the attic. Oh my god. Right after that halfway mark was a time jump. Another year in. So we weren't just 1 year. Now we are 2 full years in. So Kathy is 14, Chris is 17, and the twins are 7. Kathy is blossoming. She's turning into a woman. She's curious about her body. She's never seen a woman fully nude before, let alone herself. And the only mirror big enough to see that is in the bedroom that they all share. So one day while the other 3 were upstairs, she is fully undressed, looking at herself, taking in this new body that she has, when she sees Chris peeking at her through the attic door. Okay, she doesn't know how long he's been there. She feels really, really embarrassed. She turns around and looks at him, and he doesn't run away. He just keeps looking, and she keeps looking. Then she turns around and she sees in the reflection of the mirror that he's looking at her behind now. And when she goes to get dressed, he says, No, Kathy. When did you become like this? How have you grown into this directly in front of my eyes and I never noticed? And at that moment, the grandmother unlocks the door and she cannot get her dress on quickly enough. So the grandmother thinks they've been sleeping together. Because naturally, why wouldn't she think that? She gives them an ultimatum. Either Kathy's hair needs to be completely cut off or they get no food for a week. Yeah. Chris grabs a chair, tries to defend her, and is like, no, I'm not letting you do that. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna leave the scissors here. I'm gonna come back and check. And if the hair's not all gone, then you guys don't get food for a week. That night, Kathy has horrible, horrible nightmares. At first, I thought it was like sleep paralysis. No, her grandmother drugged her and then poured tar on her hair while she was asleep. So it wasn't sleep paralysis, it was just her coming out of this fugue state, screaming, naturally. Chris, being the doctor genius he is, had like a chemistry set that his mom had given him and tried to put all these different chemicals together to get the tar out of her hair, and it did work, but it thinned and lightened her hair a little bit. But then days kept passing, and the grandmother still hadn't even come to check if the hair was gone and hadn't brought any more food. So then they were like, okay, well, let's just cut the front off, and then you can kind of cover your head, so then if she checks, she'll see the front cut off and maybe she won't suspect. No, the grandmother never come. Like, it's been 2 full weeks now. It's been 2 full weeks. They had a bit of cheddar cheese and crackers. They had to steal the cheese that they had put in the mouse traps for themselves to eat. It is so bad that Christopher just cut himself to allow his younger siblings to drink his blood in order to get some sense of nourishment. So now they're like, all right, if she doesn't come tomorrow, we have a ladder upstairs, we can climb out of the attic. But they're all so weak. Like, it's been 2 full weeks basically without any food aside from the little bit of cheese and crackers they had left. And so they're like, we could be, killing ourselves and murdering our siblings if we fail at this, and that's where I'm at. We'll see what happens. The sun is definitely starting to set soon. It's getting a bit dark outside. I haven't decided if I want to move to my little reading chair over here. My partner's in the bedroom. He's not feeling very good, so I don't think I want to go read in there and like disturb him while he's just trying to relax and get his strength back. So maybe we'll go into the office in a little bit and read, just for a change of scenery. And it's just getting dark in here and it's hard to get good lighting in here. We had Panera for lunch, and there was a deal going on to get a free drink, so I got the strawberry basil lemonade. It's been sitting in the fridge. I don't know if it's good. That's good. I don't like the chunks, though. It says I have 3 hours to go. I'm almost at the 60% mark. They're thinking about eating the mice before they try to get out the window. They don't have any way to cook. Like, it would be raw mice. He just skinned and gutted them. Someone dropped off a picnic basket. Thank God. Oh my God. If I was going to have to read about them eating those mice, I think I was going to lose my mind. Oh, there's donuts in the basket. How sweet of them. Oh. Okay. This is what I was talking about earlier, but it's like fully come to fruition. During our week of near starvation, something peculiar had happened between Chris and me. Perhaps it became enhanced that day when I sat in the hot tub of concealing bubble bath, and he toiled so valiantly to rid my hair of the tar. For that horrible day, we'd been only brother and sister, play-acting the roles of parents to the twins. Now our relationship had changed. We weren't play-acting anymore. We were the genuine parents of Carrie and Corey. They were our responsibility, our obligation, and we committed ourselves to them totally and to each other. It was obviously drawn now. Our mother didn't care anymore what happened to us. Yeah, like, they've been starving for 2 weeks, and the mom didn't come to visit them once. I'm like, is she even living there anymore? Is she married and starting a new life? That's my suspicion. They just went back down to their bedroom and all the mirrors are gone. They're sneaking out. They're like, now that we're strong, we should practice, escaping from the attic. They're going out for a little midnight swim in a lake that their mother told them about that was nearby while the twins are sleeping. I'm stressed for them. Sabrina. This is such a horrifyingly sad book. Didn't know you'd be signing up for this emotional ride today, did ya? To be honest, I didn't either. I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not this. It was 2 full months before their mother came to visit them again, and she walked in like this probably $10,000 like suit, jewelry all over the place, gifts wrapped in velvet for the children. And finally, Chris had something to say to her. He has just idolized her this whole time, forgives her the instant she walks in the room, but he kind of gave her a piece of his mind for once. Meanwhile, the twins are just clinging to Kathy because at this point, their mother is a stranger. Like, they don't know her. It's been 2.5 years at this point. But the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because their mother is just as manipulative as their grandmother. And after being told off by her beloved boy, first of all, she looks to Kathy and is like, Christopher, you're not seeming yourself, looking at Kathy, clearly saying, like, Kathy's clearly been putting ideas in your head. Then she breaks down and starts sobbing. I came here with such good news to give you guys, and I brought you gifts, so clearly I'm thinking of you. Open these and think I don't think of you. I can't believe you. But she's just, like, hysterically sobbing. So naturally, Kathy and Chris feel guilty because that's their mother, so they go and hug her and they're crying, and then she stands up and she's like, open those gifts and tell me I don't think of you. And then she left. And the saddest part, Carrie's new clothes fit, Corey's new clothes fit. Christopher got like the gift of his dreams, a full leather-bound, gold-foiled encyclopedia set to help him learn. Kathy got candy and clothes that she couldn't even zip up all the way because they were still made for little girls. She's in desperate need of a bra, and so she can't even get the back of the zipper up. And she's like trying on these 3 dresses. She throws them all on the ground and stomps around and basically yells at her siblings, like not at them, just kind of to the void, just like how depressed she is and how she doesn't want to be here anymore. And then she goes and she dances her worries away, twists her knee, and then she like goes out on the roof and just like lays there in the cold, and Christopher comes up to comfort her, and they just kind of sit in silence. This is really sad, and I don't think it's gonna get any better. So yeah, I'm at 72% read. It says I have 2 hours to go. Let's see how this goes. And we never even got like the good news that the mother was bringing. She just decided not to tell them. Like 2 full months she was gone. Insane. And she said she's not coming back until she feels loved and respected by her children again. I'm like, girl, you don't even know your kids. Also, they're locked up in an attic. Like, how are you gonna know when they love and respect you again? Okay. I knew it. She was on her honeymoon. She married the man that she met at the Christmas party that Christopher accidentally saw her kissing. Best part is, she hasn't told him that she has 4 children. So it's not like they're gonna move in with her or something. No. Yeah, she didn't tell him because that is her father's attorney. So if she tells him, then her father will know, and when he dies, she will not get the inheritance. Babe, do you even need the inheritance at this point? You just married the wealthiest man's lawyer. Your wealthy father's lawyer. I think he's making enough money. Get your children out of there. I'm just like in shock. Like, I should not be surprised. Every time it's just like another nail in the coffin, you know? I should just expect them coming. But it's just like, wow. Wow, okay, got it, damn. All right, people, they have shared their first truly intimate moment that is more than brother and sister intimacy. Kathy was cutting Chris's hair, and afterwards he grabs the scissors and like pretends to cut her hair, which is like her main source of confidence is in her beautiful long hair. So she starts running, he starts chasing, they fall. He thinks he's like gravely impaled her, but thankfully it was just kind of a gash along her side. So he runs down to get some medical supplies. However, she was dancing before she started cutting his hair. So she's in like her ballet outfits that her mother gifted to her probably a few months in, I believe, to the attic. She's developed, so her breast didn't fit in her leotard anymore. So she had to like cut an opening in the chest So when he went to remove the cardigan to look at her gash, her chest is fully exposed, okay? It wasn't a big deal at first until he starts feeling guilty and she wants to console him. And so she does what she always saw her mother do, which was put her children's head to her breast. So now they're just laying on the floor. His head is on her left. His hand begins grazing her right. And in her words, he puts his lips to her pink peak. This one, not that one. And afterwards, she was like, Christopher, is what we just did a sin? And he was like, only if you think it is. All right. Not sure exactly what that means. Honestly, I'm like not even batting an eye at this because like we all knew this was coming when getting into this book. I just want them to find some joy. So I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm just kind of looking at them like Targaryens at this point. Like, we sat through so many seasons of Cersei and Jaime. There's another Targaryen couple of Game of Thrones. Don't want to accidentally spoil anything for everyone, but then the House of the Dragon, that's when you really see the Targaryen familial relations. So this is nothing new to me. And like all of us were willing, like they had other options in Game of Thrones. They had other options in Westeros, okay? These two are their only options for each other. I don't know if it goes further. I am unsure. We'll see. We have much to catch up on. Last night I was starting to get a little bit tired. The book was not making me fall asleep. It was just late. My partner was in the bedroom watching some soccer games or something, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go in there, get all snuggled up into bed, and do a little bit of reading. Maybe I'll fall asleep after, 30 minutes or so. No, I finished the book. I read the rest of it, and oh my god, do I have some gossip to catch you up on with this thing. Because wow. So after the Cersei and Jaime moment they had together, Kathy and Chris go back downstairs. Kathy gets cleaned up because remember she had blood on her cardigan. They're playing with their little siblings and they go to bed. Also at this point, Corey has a pet mouse. It had fallen into one of their mouse traps but didn't die all the way, and Corey was very emotional and sad, so Chris fixed up his little broken leg and they kind of made this makeshift cage for him. So that's like Corey's little buddy. Just needed to throw that out there. This night, Kathy has what she calls a premonition. And it's not her drugged state like last time when, the grandmother poisoned her and then poured tar in her hair. No, this is like an actual dream. And this is what she says. This was no ordinary nightmare. This was precognition and psychic in nature. I felt it in my bone marrow. Something dreadful was about to happen. In the dream, her grandmother snuck into her room, shaved off all of her hair, cut off her breasts and fed them to Chris. And then there was more. She said, that wasn't all. It was Mama who came in and cut out my heart. And she was sparkled all over with diamonds. This is the first time Chris takes Kathy seriously and is like, okay, fine. I'm going to take this seriously. We're going to try to escape out of here. So their plan is to try to make a copy somehow of the key to their door. That's what they've come to the conclusion. They know they can't try to steal their grandmother's key because as soon as she unlocks the door, she stuffs it all the way deep into her pocket and she's not going to be that careless. However, their mother is who they think they can swipe the key away and then swiftly return it back and she will never notice. Their mother visits finally. She's only visiting 2, maybe 3 times a month at this point. Kathy kind of brings up how she clearly needs bras. And her mom's like, oh, I'll bring you a dozen to try on. Whatever doesn't fit, we'll give to the servants. She brings up how Corey is just nonstop sick. Corey has really bad allergies and was receiving a monthly allergy shot before they moved into the attic. But at this point, she doesn't even look at the twins. She just cares so little about those two that she doesn't even acknowledge their existence. At one point, Corey cries because he's got his cute little pet mouse that he's so proud of taking care of, and the mother doesn't even acknowledge that there's a literal mouse sitting on his shoulder. So Kathy being Kathy is like, I know how to get mother distracted while she's in here, and that is to ask her questions about her many splendid travels and what she's spending her money on. So she's like, oh, well, where did you go on your honeymoon? What did you do on this vacation? Where did you visit? Blah, blah, blah. Chris is able to swipe the key that she had left sitting on the dresser. He makes an imprint in soap like they had planned and puts it back. Well, she's so caught up in talking about all these exciting things that money is buying her right now that she doesn't even realize that Chris has locked himself in the bathroom for 10 minutes trying to get a solid print of this key. But she never notices. The mother leaves. They're left alone to their own vices, and Chris begins to whittle a key from hardwood because he's afraid softwood will be too fragile and break in the door. What a genius, this kid. He's gonna be a doctor one day. So Chris, after believing the severity of Kathy's dream, starts to sneak out at night, but only on nights when he sees his mother and their stepfather leave. Like, they can kind of peek through the curtains in the window and they can tell when she's there or when she's not. Her husband has moved in to their house, so they're both living there. So on the nights that they leave to go to their events, Chris sneaks away into their bedroom and starts stealing money. He just takes a 5 or a 10, he digs in the cushions for change, and he pockets it and he brings it back. So this has kind of become a routine for them every night, waiting to see if they see her leaving or not, and when she does, he sneaks away. Kathy decides to come one night, and when she walks into their mother's room, she describes it as a chamber for a princess. And this is what Chris was holding back about when he first explored. He was kind of keeping something to himself. He didn't express just how opulent his mother's room was. She has more clothing than a department store, jewels and rings and earrings and diamond necklaces and tiaras everywhere. She has multiple full-length fur coats. She has gowns all over the place, lush carpets, silk walls. Kathy's just like so caught up in the opulence that she begins to try everything on. She's putting on her mother's makeup and she's just like kind of taken aback by how her mother's living. Even if they were trapped in their mother's room, they would be better off. Like, that's how amazing and massive this set of rooms in their mother's bedroom is. And also while in here, Kathy opens a nightstand drawer and it's an embroidery book on how to embroider. So she opens it up and inside on every page are pornographic pictures. So then she's flipping through it. Chris walks up behind her and also sees it for the first time. Okay, that's very important to know. And then they're all flustered and they're like, hot and heavy. You know, more Cersei and Jaime stuff. Chris does make the comment though that so much of the stuff in this room is new. It was opulent already before, but clearly so much money has been spent to just make that room dripping with wealth. Chris then gets sick and he is unable to go steal. Like, all the kids at this point just take turns getting sick. Corey has definitely had the worst of it. The twins, realistically both of them, but specifically Corey, they're not growing. Their height's been measured since they moved in there. They've only grown 2 inches from ages 5 to 7. And Kathy keeps describing them as looking like dolls with heads too big for their body. Like, they are just not getting the nutrients that they need. And so now Chris is sick. Kathy's been taking care of him, but she's like, okay, our mother has left. We need to keep building this fund. Chris wants to have $500 before they leave. So Kathy sneaks out. She's in her little nightgown. So she sneaks into the room. Who's there? Her stepfather, but he's asleep. He's asleep on a chair. And Kathy is just so curious because this is her first time really seeing him. And she walks up to him and she's like, oh, mother forgot to mention that he's much younger. So he's probably, my guess is like in his mid-20s. He's wealthy. I mean, he's a lawyer and he's passed out in here. So what does Kathy do? She kisses him. She's seen those pictures that were in the nightstand and she's just so curious. And so she does, in fact, lean forward and give him a light little smooch, and then she gets scared and runs out of the room and returns to the bedroom. When Kathy returns, she doesn't have anything and she's kind of distressed about it. And so Chris is like, it's okay. You don't know the places to look. I've been going by myself. You've only been that one time with me. It's okay, I'll continue going by myself after this. So the next time he goes, he's searching his normal places when suddenly he hears the door open. He hides in his mother's closet. I mean, it's so big and so full of floor-length dresses and coats and boots, so he's perfectly hidden, but he can hear them talking, and their stepfather has forgotten his wallet. They are clearly suspicious. They think servants have been stealing from them because he talks about how he swears he left his wallet in this place and it's always somewhere else the next time he goes to grab it. He's missing 5s and 10s and 1s and change that should be here that isn't, and things are just not in the same place as they're leaving them. And their mother kind of has a bit of something. She's like, good, I would probably be stealing from us if I worked here too. They're not paid enough. He tries to send his wife on ahead and she's like, no, the last time this happened, you fell asleep and I was left without an escort at the movies. And he's like, oh, God forbid. And then he mentions how when he fell asleep that day, he had a dream about a sweet little angel with long blonde hair who came up and kissed him. And she's like, oh my God, this again? You act as though you've never been kissed before, blah, blah, blah. And so Chris hears that and is like, long blonde hair came to kiss him. Sounds familiar. It seems as though they're going to stay for a second, and Chris is like freaking out because their stepfather is trying to get freaky with his mother, and he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna vomit if I have to listen to this. Thankfully, they leave. Chris sneaks out and goes back to their room and confronts Kathy. This is where it gets dark. Kathy's up in the attic, just kind of staring out the window, and he walks up and is like, wow, you look like so beautiful outlined in this moonlight. And she's worried because she's like, you've been gone way too long. Like, you were gone way longer than you've ever been gone before. And he kind of starts to go through the story of what he had just experienced, and then he gets to the part about the stepfather's dream angel kiss, and he says, damn you, Kathy, you kissed that man. He could have awakened and seen you and demanded to know who you were and not thought you only a part of his dream. She's freaking out because she's like, oh my god, he saw me. I thought he was asleep that whole time. It's not possible. He saw me. And Chris is like, no, he saw you. He thought you a part of his dream. But don't you know that mama can guess who it was just by putting 2 and 2 together, just as I have. Damn you and your romantic notions. Now they're onto us. They won't leave money casually about as they did before. And he's counting, she's counting, and we don't have enough money. Not yet. Then he starts to yell even more and screams at her, you're mine, Kathy, mine. You'll always be mine. No matter who comes into your future, you'll always belong to me. I'll make you mine tonight, now. Now, to save you the details from what happened, we're gonna use another Cersei and Jaime comparison when they're next to Joffrey in the later seasons. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones, you're not gonna understand that, but if you have, you know exactly the scene that I'm talking about. It was along those lines. Kathy definitely says she could have resisted, but she didn't really want to. But it was definitely by force until she gave in. And she immediately begins worrying that there might be a baby. All that's going through her mind is that now we are sinners and we've done exactly what our grandmother thought of us. Chris feels bad and she's like, no, like, if I didn't want it, I knew where to hit you and where to kick you hard to where you would have stopped, but I didn't do that. So she's, you know, trying to make excuses. I don't think she quite understands the severity of what he did. And, you know, she's younger. She doesn't know all the details of that stuff like he does. But in her mind, she has forgiven him. She doesn't necessarily see what he did as wrong. I believe this is like 2 years and 6 months or so into living in the attic. They've still been collecting more money. Kathy keeps trying to push Chris to steal the jewelry. Like, you could grab 1 pair of earrings and that'd be worth more than all of the cash we could collect in years here without them noticing, you know? And so he's like, okay, fine, tonight we'll steal some of Mother's jewelry. However, Corey begins to get really sick. Like, again, he's baseline ill every day. He's never fully there. He never has full energy, but he is so severely ill. And remember, the twins are little, so like any kids, they're very picky eaters. And the grandmother has consistently been sending donuts for each of them every day, and that's one of the only things Corey likes from the basket. So he's just eating all the sugar. He's not getting the nutrients or the vitamins that he needs. He's not getting out in the sun, breathing fresh air, running around. They're watching TV. They're doing the best with what they have. So he keeps getting sick over and over and over again. Chris is flying through every book he can possibly think of to figure out exactly what's going on with him, what he can do. Kathy has changed his pajamas so many times that he's out of pajamas, he's out of clean clothes to wear because he just keeps getting sick and he's not stopping. He's telling Kathy, mama, my bones hurt. He's just so weak and ill. Chris finally guesses maybe it's food poisoning, like maybe we just didn't keep the milk at the right temperature or food got too cold and sat for too long. And Kathy's like, yeah, but we shared everything and I smell everything, I taste everything before I give it to the kids to make sure it's safe to eat. So they're just kind of grasping for straws at this point. So finally, the next morning comes. It's early. Their grandmother's bringing their basket of food as always. It's typically 4 powdered sugar donuts, peanut butter and grape jelly sandwiches, fried chicken and potato salad. Can't remember what other breakfast foods she typically brings, but that's like, it's basically the same stuff every single day. So Kathy speaks up. Remember, she's not supposed to speak to the grandmother unless the grandmother speaks to her first. She says, grandmother, I have not spoken to you. Wait until I do. She says, I can't wait. Corey's sick. He's been throwing up all night and all day yesterday. He needs a doctor and his mother. She just turns around and leaves. But thankfully, a few minutes later, she comes back with their mother. Kathy and Chris are just sitting there watching their mother and grandmother like whisper back and forth, trying to figure out what exactly to do. Kathy's had enough. She stands up and yells at her mother. Like, what could you possibly be trying to figure out what to do? Can you not see that your child is ill? He needs to go to the hospital. He needs to see a doctor right now. Like, what is even up for discussion? Do you hate your children that much? Can you not stand us that much that you want to let your son, your youngest son, die in this room? what does her mother do? Slaps her across the one cheek, slaps her across the other. And what does Kathy do? Slaps her mother right back. Yeah, that's right. What's the grandmother doing? Watching their smiling. Because that's their grandmother, you know? Finally, their mother agrees to take Corey. And Chris is like, Kathy should go with him. Like, that's the person who Corey's going to be looking for as soon as he's able to open his eyes. Like, you've got to let Kathy come with. And Kathy even, like, internally is thinking, like, children know who loves them most in the world, and that's naturally who they look to in moments like this. And she feels she just absolutely needs to be there for Corey. But of course, their mother and grandmother do not do that. They leave the children in the room until late that night, where they can come up and get Corey and sneak him out without anyone knowing. So he's still sitting here all day after that, and they take him to a hospital. So their mother eventually comes back, and she does not look good. She says, I drove Corey to a hospital miles away, the nearest one really, and I registered him under a false name saying he was my nephew, my ward. Kathy thinks lies, always lies, and she says, Mama, how is he? She says, Corey had pneumonia. The doctors did all they could, ... but it was ... too late. Kathy thinks had pneumonia, all they could, too late, all past tenses. Corey passed away. They start breaking down, the children, naturally. They're looking around the room, seeing all of his things. He has a little banjo in the corner because his dream was to be a musician. So he had been learning how to write sheet music, learning how to play the guitar and writing songs. He had his little mouse cage in the corner with Mickey, his mouse, that he cared for and fed every single day. And Chris asks, will we go to his funeral? And their mother responds, he's already been buried. I had a false name put on the tombstone. And then, very quickly, she escaped the room and our questions, and the grandmother followed, her lips set in a grim, thin line. Yeah. So at this point, Carrie has already been in distress. She wasn't as ill as Corey, but she was just as weak. And after this moment, she just completely checks out. She doesn't talk. She's not fazed by anything. She doesn't seem to hear anything. They call her deaf, blind, and mute because that's how she seems to be behaving. She's unresponsive. She just sits there. She has to be force-fed. And Kathy's like so worried. So Chris and Kathy are like, okay, like we can't wait any longer. We have to make this escape. We're stealing her jewelry as soon as they leave the next time, and we're leaving that night. Kathy has another dream shortly after Corey passes, and in this dream she sees Corey running through a field to their father, and she knows that Corey is safe. And so I think this like brings some peace to her, and she does tell Carrie about this. No, Corey's not with us, but he's with Daddy. And I think this is kind of like what gives her the courage to keep going, is because in her mind, she knows that Corey is with someone who loved him. This is where shit takes off. As soon as they are able to, Chris is like, all right, it's time. I'm going to go steal the jewelry. They got 2 empty pillowcases ready for him, and he sets out in the night to go steal what he can. However, it is very, very long before he comes back. He was already gone a long time when his mother and stepfather returned to the room, and Kathy was so worried. This is like way longer. Like if they were going to leave, he needed to be back within a few moments, or they weren't going to have enough time. And when he returns, he begins to tell Kathy everything he saw. When he went into their mother's room to steal her jewelry, everything was gone. Everything. As in, they moved out of the house and were no longer living there. The only thing left in the room was in her nightstand drawer. It was a framed photo of her deceased husband, the children's father, and their wedding rings. That's what she left. Those are the only 2 things he returns to the room with. So then Chris, being Chris and feeling like the provider for their little family, is like, oh my God, what do I do? We needed those jewels to rely on. And he's feeling so guilty because he thinks, I should have listened to Kathy. I should have gotten jewelry sooner. Why didn't I do this? If I would have gotten the jewelry sooner, we could have left sooner and Corey would still be here with us. Like, he's just feeling guilt-ridden, and he is willing to do absolutely anything right now. So he walks up to the grandmother's room. Unfortunately, he does still see a light on in there, and so he's too scared to enter the chambers, but he does peek in a little bit, and he hears a prayer. Forgive me, Lord, for all my sins. I have always done what I thought best, and if I made mistakes, please believe I thought I was doing right. May I forever find grace in thine eyes. Amen. Crawls into bed, and then she goes to sleep. But Chris is still thinking, I can't return empty-handed. Like, he doesn't think he can pawn his parents' rings. So he's like, I have to find something else. He thinks, okay, let me see if there's anything in my grandfather's room. The last they had heard about him, their mother described him as being bedridden. Like, he wasn't even allowed in his wheelchair anymore. He couldn't get out of the bed, so he's like, what's he gonna do if I go in there? You know, we're leaving anyway. So he remembers at the Christmas party, he saw his grandfather exit through the back of the library with his nurse toward his room. So that's where he goes. He goes into the library. He sees a desk in there and it's like, oh, maybe there's, you know, something hidden in this opulent walnut desk. No, the desk is completely empty. He's like, what's the point of a desk if you're not even using it? There's not even paper clips or tape or pens or whatever in here. Like, the desk was completely empty. So he's just like so desperate at this moment. So he's got his eyes locked on his grandfather's room. He's got his little flashlight out. And he opens the door, and the room is empty. He sees a hospital bed folded up on itself, but no grandfather. He sees a cane and a wheelchair in the corner, but still no grandfather. Outside of those few bits of furnishing, the room was almost completely empty. So he returns to the library and remembers that there's a safe in there. It's like one of those hidden behind a painting on the wall. So he removes the painting, and they've been watching so much TV, so naturally there's heist stuff on there. And he puts his ear up on it so he can like hear the little clicks as he's turning the dial, and he hears them, but he's not able to get it in the right combination and get the safe open. So he's like, you know, he keeps trying different combinations, spinning the wheel, nothing's happening. And then he hears voices and footsteps. So he runs and he hides under this little sofa. It's two servants that have now approached the library. A woman and a man. The woman's like, I swear I heard noises coming from over here. And John's like, you always hear noises. You're always swearing you're hearing mice run around in the attic, blah, blah, blah. Chris had left the flashlight on in the grandfather's room, but he says the male servant didn't want to look at anything besides the woman. Like, clearly he came in there with a purpose. So he was just oblivious to anything happening around him at that moment. So then the male servant says, that old woman is killing all of the mice in the attic. She carries up to them food in a picnic basket, enough food to kill a whole German army of mice. And she responds, yeah, she's a mean, hard old woman, and to tell the truth, I always took to the old man better. At least he knew how to smile. But her, she don't know how. Time and time again, I come into his room to clean up and find her in his room, just standing there, staring at his empty bed, and she's got this queer little tight smile that I take for gloating because he's dead, and she's outlived him, and now she's free and don't have nobody riding her back and telling her not to do this and don't do that and jump when I speak. But now that he's dead, she's got his money. So, yes, the grandfather is dead. Okay? He responds, yeah, sure, she's got some. She's got her own money that her family left her, but her daughter, she got all the millions that he left. Their mother has inherited the money, okay? She has the money. This is what Chris is hearing. So Chris is like raging to Kathy right now. He's like, our grandfather is dead. He's been dead for almost a year. A year that their mother has had the inheritance, and they've still been in the attic. Kathy's thoughts are just running because she didn't even fully grasp. She was just so worried about what Chris had experienced down there, and they're about to escape. She's got so many things going on through her head that finally it has hit her. Our grandfather is dead. Our mother has the inheritance. He's been gone for a year, yet here we still are. Chris says, our mother deceived us deliberately, Kathy. Her father died, and months later his will was read, and all the while she kept us quiet and left us here to wait and rot. 9 months ago, we would have all been 9 months healthier. Corey would be alive today if Mama had let us out the day her father died, or even the day after the will was read. So there was 3 months between his passing and the will being read. But still, Corey would be here. It doesn't matter if she waited till the will was read. And then Chris says, you haven't heard anything. There's more, much more, and worse. And Kathy's like, what could possibly be worse than hearing all this? You guys aren't ready, okay? It was insane. They take a breather and just kind of discuss their plan. Their plan is to go to Florida. They're gonna get to the train that they arrived on, and they're just going to keep riding trains until they get as far away as they possibly can. So after going over this plan, Kathy's like, okay, I've had a breather. Now tell me what you haven't told me yet. So then Chris begins to tell another story. So initially, every Friday, the servants would come in to clean their room, and all of the children would have to pack up every single one of their belongings and hide in the attic all day on Friday, basically, until the servants were done. But then after a while, that just stopped happening. So Chris begins to tell her that he learned the reason that the grandmother gave the servants to not clean that room anymore. And it's because of mice. She said she had told them that hundreds of mice were living in the attic. Devilish little mice that forced her to lock the door, leaving in the room food covered over with arsenic. And so Kathy thinks, what an ingenious, marvelous story, because the attic was full of mice. But then Chris is like, Kathy, arsenic is white, Kathy, white. And when mixed with powdered sugar, you cannot taste its bitterness. What did they have every single day where they wondered maybe their grandmother does have a heart after all. They were eating powdered sugar donuts every day. But one kid was pickier than the rest, Corey. So he was eating 3 of the 4 powdered sugar donuts every single day. Yep. Kathy cannot believe this. So they decide, let's feed a bit of the donut we have right now to Corey's mouse and see if he survives or not. Because they needed to confirm this in their heads. Because their mother had told them, we went to a hospital, it was pneumonia. They feed the donut to the mouse, and after a few hours, the mouse keels over and passes. So Chris comes up with the idea that they could put the mouse and the 2 donuts they had left into a little paper bag, and when they escape, they can take it to the police station and get their grandmother put into jail. But Chris is averting his eyes, and Kathy's like, you're not telling me everything. You're holding something back. And he just says later, after we've gone, right now, I've said all I can say without getting sick. We'll leave early tomorrow morning. So they're able to escape. They leave so early, really in the middle of the night, because they're so scared the grandmother's going to catch them on their way out. They're walking down to the train station, basically dragging Carrie along. She's just not there. She's just completely unfazed by anything. She's just existing, really, and nothing else. So they get on the first train, they hit their first stop, and they're like, okay, we don't want to just be sitting ducks here at this train station, so let's walk around while we wait for the next train to come. And so Kathy's like, we can go to the police and tell our story. This might be our time. And Chris says, the city will provide for you and Carrie. I don't know what'll happen with me. You guys might get separated, but they will provide for you. And Kathy's like, okay, Chris, we've escaped, so out with it. What is it you keep holding back? And Chris just says, it's Mama. Recall when she said she'd do anything to win back her father's approval so she could inherit? I don't know what he made her promise, but I did overhear the servants talking. Kathy, a few days before our grandfather died, he had a codicil added to his will that states, if our mother is ever proven to have given birth to children by her first husband, she will have to forfeit everything she inherits and return everything she's bought with the money, including her clothes, jewels, investments, everything. And that's not all. He even had it written in that if she has children by her second marriage, she will lose everything too. And Mama thought he had forgiven her. He didn't forgive or forget. He would keep on punishing her from his grave. So if ever it came to light that she had children, she would lose everything. So then Kathy comes to the realization it was our mother and not the grandmother that was trying to poison us. And Krisha says, I heard that old woman praying in her bed. She's evil, but I doubt she would put poison on the donuts herself. She would carry them up to us and know we ate the sweets, when all along she warned us not to eat them. So they debate whether or not they should go to the police, and out of fear of losing each other and not being able to stay together, they decide to throw the donuts away, throw the mouse away, and let karma and God have its way with their mother and their grandmother. They were sure that they would run into their mother again at some point in life. Certain fate would arrange it that way, and we'd look her straight into the eyes and turn our backs, is what she said. And so then, at that moment, for the first time in their lives, they felt free, and they got on a train to Florida. The epilogue then leaves you with basically saying, we managed to survive. Know that I'm telling this story from years in the future, but that story of survival is a story for another day. And then it leads into the sequel. Guys, it was the mom all along. Kathy's dream was right. She had a dream that, yes, her grandmother was cutting off her hair, cutting off her breasts, and feeding them to her brother, but that it was her mother who came in and cut out her heart. Her mother was never planning to let them go. Their grandfather had been gone for a year. And she had her inheritance for a full 9 months, and she didn't do anything for those children. Her plan was never to let those children out. Let's be so serious. She was so money hungry. She didn't care about anything else but appearances. Is that not insane? Is that not insane? This book is actually really good. I need to watch the movie now and see how much it holds up. This was insane. It was grim, it was gothic, it was horrific at times, it was sad. Sometimes it was a bit of a love story when it shouldn't have been. But yeah, this was an amazing book. I tried to find a copy of this at the thrift store today. I want to find a mass market copy of Flowers in the Attic so badly. I'm gonna have to keep my eyes peeled for it. I did already get the second book from the library on here so I can keep reading the series, because yeah, this book was so good. This book, oh my god, was fantastic. Genuinely. No notes. Absolutely no notes.